I read all kinds of books, and obviously if you guys are tapping on this video, then you guys want to see books that do not have any spice. I have so many book recs here, and I am really excited to share these with you guys just because I feel like it's so hard to find books with no spice sometimes. So yeah, I am gonna get into all these. I have had a little bit of like a cold, so if you guys hear just like a little congestion, that's why. I feel like I am kind of getting over a bug, and catching my breath is actually kind of hard sometimes. So yeah, I want to go through these, but if I'm just like breathing a little weird, that is why. I think also because my nose is like stopped up, it's like harder to breathe. But I'm going to share books that I've read, and then also some books that are on my TBR, because I love literally reading anything. So I do want to read so many of these. And yeah, let's get into the books that I've read. These are zero spice or have very minimal closed door scenes, and I'll share which ones have those. The first book that I have to recommend is probably one of my favorites. It's called Picking Daisies on Sundays by Leanna Sincotti. This book is an absolute masterpiece. I feel like a lot of the time, whenever I look for books with no spice, I almost always get recommended young adult books, or I get recommended books that are like fluffy, cutesy, like nothing goes wrong type of thing, and those are fine, but sometimes I just like want a little bit more depth, and a lot of these books have that depth. I will say I am going to share, I think, 2 young adult books out of this stack. I think it's only 2 or 3, and I tried to stay away from sharing young adult books because, again, I feel like, I don't know, you get recommended those a lot, and as an adult, like if I want to read a book with no spice, I do want to read an adult book, and this is such a great read. This is about a girl who has been like really having feelings for this guy for a very, very long time. It's her childhood best friend. I read this like a year ago, so I'm trying to like remember everything. I'm pretty sure that it's set in college, and it says 4 years later and one night in a crowded bar in West Village, there he was, her childhood crush. So again, I love that this is taking place in college. They're adults, and there's no spice in this, and you really get to see how her feelings blossom for him. And she also wrote a second book, which I haven't read yet. I don't know if the second book has spice or not, so I didn't add it to this stack. But this was one of my favorite like books that I read. I think it was like last year. I read this one 4 stars. That doesn't have any spice. I also love this book by Jasmine Guillory. It's probably one of my favorites. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it's about a girl who has to help this guy write a book, and it's like a book about his life, but he like doesn't want to do it, and he's grumpy. She works for a publishing house, and she's like, hey, you gotta do this thing, like you are on contract to write, like you have to make it happen. And he's like, okay, I just don't feel like doing it. And she's like, I will literally do anything to help you make this happen. And he's like, you'll do anything? Okay, come up to my house and help me write this. And he like lives somewhere else, so she has to travel to where he is. And she's trying to like, I don't know, make her publishing house impressed by her. So she's like, I'm gonna get this story out of him faster than anyone. And it's a really good read. I will say this is one of those that's like very cutesy. There isn't really anything that's super heavy. So if you're looking for a light and fluffy read, this is a great one for that. Again, by a Black author. The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams is another cutesy fluffy read. Again, I will get into the ones that have like more deeper themes within them, but I feel like the fluffy cutesy reads are ones I wanted to share first. This is an author who is known for writing books with no spice, and this is a really good book. It's a friends to lovers story. I will say this one was a bit predictable because both people have feelings for each other, but they haven't told either of each other, and they've been best friends forever. And it just so happens that there's like this big scandal that happens where everyone kind of assumes that they're together, and so they kind of have to fake date and like go along with it. And he's like a professional football player, so you see like him being in the media and that kind of thing. Again, no spice, very cutesy, fluffy, just like happy vibes. There's nothing too heavy in this, and it's just a fun read, which I feel like these are perfect for right now because I don't know, in the wintertime it can get so gloomy and sad. I feel like a lot of people lean towards gloomy, like deeper books, but it's like that can also put you into like an even more like sad space. So I always do recommend romances for the winter and like gloomy months. And another book that is incredible is Charming as a Verb. This is a young adult book, but I feel like this one has so much depth within it. It's about this guy who's wanting to go to a bunch of different, or he's wanting to go to like a really good college. And while he's trying to get into this college, he's just like, it's not gonna happen. I go to this prep school and like everyone else has all these connections and I don't. And he ends up coming in contact with this girl who pretty much blackmails him and it's like, hey, you need to like just help me be popular. Otherwise, I'm gonna tell everyone you're a fraud of a business that you have, because he's a dog walker. And he's like, okay, well, if I help you be popular, you need to help me like figure out this whole school situation. So they kind of are like helping each other. But again, there's a lot of deeper themes in this of like finding your own way, figuring out what you want outside of what your parents or like people around you want. The banter in this is also really funny. I really enjoyed this one, and it's also told from a guy's point of view. The Kiss Countdown by Etta Easton is a really cute read. I think this one has a fade to black scene. If you don't know what fade to black is, it's like you kind of know that they're like about to do something, but I don't know if it's like fade to black like after they make out, but like you know that something's coming, but they kind of are just like, they stared into each other's eyes and like he, you know, I don't know, it just like alludes to them doing something and then it like kind of ends scene and it like wakes up the next day and they're like, wow, last night was amazing, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that this has a fade to black scene in it. I really enjoyed this one. Again, very cutesy and fun. This one is about a astronaut and an event planner, and the event planner, she has really come down on her luck. She's really struggling to even just get any kind of business, and she's about to lose like her apartment. She comes in contact with this guy who she like can't stand, and she's like, he's annoying or whatever, comes in contact with him again when they're at a coffee shop when her ex-boyfriend is there. So she pretends like this guy she can't stand is her boyfriend, so that her ex-boyfriend's kind of like jealous. And then after that whole fake dating situation in the coffee shop, she's about to go her separate ways and he's like, hey, actually, could we do this again? Because my parents have been on my butt to freaking get a girlfriend and I just like don't want to have to deal with that whenever I'm around them next. And she's like, okay, we can do that. So they end up fake dating, and they also end up having like a shared proximity space situation. So really enjoy this one a lot. Again, this is like a cutesy read, doesn't have like a ton of like harder topics or anything. I think it touches on some things like figuring out what you want outside of what other people around you are pressuring you to do and that kind of thing. But again, it was really fun. Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan is technically in the contemporary fiction section in a lot of bookstores. It is in the romance section in some, it just depends on where you're at. I really love this one, and I think the reason why I loved it so much is because it talks about so many deeper topics outside of the romance. It talks about, I'm pretty sure, because I read this one along with her other two, like fairly close in time. This one, I'm pretty sure, talks a lot about grief and how Allie is having to work through that grief, I'm pretty sure. It says she's a professional organizer and her life's a mess. Yes, her mom died 2 years ago, then her husband left, and she hasn't worn pants with the zipper in longer than she cares to remember. She has kids, and she's just trying to figure it out. Like, she's still really struggling, and she's in a very dark place. She meets this guy who kind of like brightens up her world a little bit and shows her like a different side of life. And you really see the heavy like hold that grief has on her and how she has to like really work to like claw out of all of those feelings and like work through them. So this is a very deep read, one that, I mean, obviously by the cover it looks like cutesy, but there are a lot of deeper themes as well. Another young adult book that I think is great is Everything Everything. This is a book that is actually a young adult book, but it was turned into a movie, and it also does have a lot of deeper themes in this as well. It's about a girl who has had a illness that like that keeps her inside, and she like can't go anywhere. And while she's like inside just like dreaming her life away, her neighbor comes in contact with her and kind of gets her to be revitalized and like excited about life again. This one is such an incredible read, and the movie was actually one that did this book justice. It's written by a Black author. I feel like you'll really enjoy this one if you pick it up. And don't let like the fact that it's a young adult book like deter you from reading it, because it is a great book. Another book that I love is A Neighbor Favor. It's again written by a Black author. This is about a girl who's like a shy bookworm, and she ends up sending a letter to like her favorite author, and he ends up like communicating with her back in an email, and she's like, oh my god, this is so cool, like he's talking back to me. So then she kind of starts to have feelings for him, but then he completely ghosts her after they've been like emailing back and forth for a while. So after that happens, she's just like, okay, well, I need to like put myself out there and go on dates. And while she's trying to do that, she ends up meeting her new neighbor because she moves into a new apartment. Come to find out, her new neighbor is actually the author that was emailing her, but she doesn't know because she never met or like knew his face or anything, but he knows that it is her. So he's trying to kind of keep his identity under wraps because obviously he ghosted her. This one I don't think has any spice in it at all. I can't remember if it's Fade to Black or not. I always want to be completely transparent, but I don't remember like literally anything in this at all. This is a great read. I feel like this one will be perfect if you're wanting to continue a series, because this actually talks about the other sisters of the main character in books 2 and book 3 that comes out next year. So if you want to have a series to like just bite into and hold on to the characters for a while longer, this is a great one to read. Another book that is great to read by another Black author is Love Radio by Ebony Liddell. This is a young adult book, but this is such a deep read. Like there are so many deep topics within this, and I just want to read like the inside so that I don't spoil anything. It's about a girl who, well, I think that I can read it with, or just like kind of give you an idea without spoiling anything, but there's this guy named Prince, and he has a radio show where he gives like a bunch of people advice, and then there's a girl who, her name is Danny, and they end up meeting. Sparks fly, and Prince gets interested in her, but she's not really interested in him. Like she's just like, I just can't like deal with it. And it says 3 dates. It says Prince just, where? Oh, hold on. Oh my god, I just got so confused. Like, where was I at? It says she gives Prince just 3 dates to convince her that he's worth falling for. 3 dates for the love expert to take his own advice and just maybe change 2 lives forever. Again, this one is such a good book. I will say there is like a Fade to Black scene in this one as well. I think they just like go into her bedroom and like then they just kind of end scene there. But this one talks a lot about deeper themes, and I think the reason why they added that like Fade to Black scene in there is actually important. Once you get into the story, you figure out some of the things that the main character has like apprehension with, and she's like a little nervous about, so you can see that she's like trusting him in areas that like maybe she hasn't with other people, and you'll learn that as you get into the story. And I feel like this is a great one to pick up. Even though it's a young adult book, it definitely has a lot of deeper themes in this story. Another great book that I don't hear like anyone talk about and you have to pick up, I rated this one 4 stars when I read it a year ago and I still love it, is The Two of Us by Taylor Torres. This is a second chance romance, and I'm not going to read too much about it or talk too much about it because I went into it kind of blind, and I feel like that's how most people should go into this story. But it says sometimes holding on to pain means letting go of love. If there's no place like home, that's more than okay for Mara McKinnon. In fact, she prefers it that way. Going back to the place where she made the worst mistake of her life, not ideal. So when her family emergency forces Mara to return home to her small lake town in Maine, after 7 years, she knows there's only one way she'll get through it unscathed. Avoid Ambrose King at all costs, but that might prove difficult considering he lives right across the street. And this story is like one that I feel like weaves family and love together so well, because she's like going home to take care of like a family emergency. And if you're anyone who's had to deal with a family emergency, it can be very all-encompassing and it can kind of take over your life. And then someone who also is very well aware of like how much you love your family and stuff, and you are trying to stay away from them even though they happen to be your neighbor. Such a great read. pick this one up, please. I just don't hear enough people talk about it. And again, I rated this one 4 stars. I don't think that this has very many reviews on Goodreads. Let me like look it up, because again, I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and the author hasn't written anything else, so I feel like it's one of those books where like so many people loved it, but it just didn't get like a ton of the hype that I feel like it deserves. Yeah, it has 7,519 ratings, and it was released in 2023. So I really encourage you to pick this one up. This one is a great read. And then I'm gonna get into the 2 books that are on here that do have spice, but they are like, I'll just share the caveat, okay? So this book, Between Friends and Lovers by Shirley Abobi, does have spice at the end of this book, but the main character in this book talks openly about how she's never had sex with anyone, and how that is something that she's like wanted to wait for just till like she finds the right person. And you see at the end of this book that she like makes that decision, and you see that like acted out in the story. I feel like this is an important read to add, because I know that if you're looking for books with no spice and the large portion of this book doesn't have spice and then the ending does, I feel like you could so easily skip over that. This book is one of those books that also has so much depth within the story. It's about a girl who has had feelings for her best friend for literally forever. He's like famous. And if you're anyone who's ever been like pining over a friend or pining over someone who doesn't want you back but knows that you like them, you will resonate with the story. Or if you've always been the girl that's kind of been like picked over, like no one's been interested in you, you will love this story, because the girl in this has always had feelings for this guy, and he knows it, and he kind of like plays it to his advantage. Like he's just like, oh, like you want to like come over and like hang out, or you want to do this for me, like that kind of thing. Very yucky, but she just like always feels like maybe he'll start to have feelings for me, I don't know. So then there comes a point where she's like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to talk to you. So she decides to kind of cut ties with him for a bit until she can like figure out her feelings. In that time, she meets this other guy who she starts to have feelings for. But while she's having feelings for this other guy, this guy over here who she's always had feelings for is like, hey, I don't like her having feelings for somebody else. So there's kind of like this love triangle situation, but also there are so many deeper themes in this of her navigating her family dynamic. She has a lot going on that's like kind of dramatic and stuff that she has to deal with there. And she also struggles with depression. So there's lots of deep themes in this. And again, I feel like this is one of those books that, I don't know, is great even if you don't want to read books with spice, because the large portion of the story does not have spice in it, and it's like kind of towards the end. You could easily skip it. And this was also on Amazon, like the Amazon editors best like romance picks of 2024. So please pick this up. I love this book. I rated this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure it was very, very good. Another book that I loved, rated this one 5 stars, does have spice, but again, I'll kind of give you guys like the caveat of it, and it is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. Now, the first scene in this book starts out with spice, because it is about a woman who is like married to this guy, but she like doesn't really want to be married to him because he's kind of just like a jerk, and you find that out. And I think that adding in the spice scene at the beginning of this really gives you the ick for that person. I don't know if it's like a spice scene or if they're just, I think it is a spice scene. Let me double check this. I think it is. One of the first chapters, I'm pretty sure, starts with it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if they don't start with it, like they're talking about it or something like that. I think it does start with it though. And in this, it is one of those things where I feel like the author added it not to like be like, ooh, like spice. Yes, like this whole book's about spice. I think she added it so that you can recognize how like her relationship with her husband has been like not the best one, and you're seeing that acted out, you know what I mean? Because like whenever you think about marriage and sex in a marriage, you think of it as being like a beautiful thing. And I think that Kennedy Ryan does an incredible job with everything that she writes, but there's so much intention in this book. So you really get to see the dynamic of the marriage like right off the bat. And then there's one garage scene in this story, and you can literally, like, when the characters go to the garage, you know what I'm talking about. Like once you get to the garage scene, you'll be like, okay, I can skip this. You can literally just skip that portion of the story, and you will skip like a large portion of the spice. And then at the very end, they like allude to the characters having like spice together, and I am pretty sure that she's married. I can't remember I can't remember to like exactly, but they like allude to it at the end. So really the biggest scene that you would want to skip would be the garage scene, but it would be very easy to skip because, like, you know, when she's going out to the garage, that's when this spice scene is going to happen. But this is such an incredible story, rated 5 stars, and I've only had a handful of 5-star reads in 2024. This was such a great book, and I feel like it's so great because it focuses more on loving yourself and solo dating and finding your own way and not relying on the person you're with to bring your happiness than anything. And this book, I think, is perfect for people if you love contemporary fiction or if you love romance. I feel like it can be great for either types of readers. This one is about a girl, again, like I said, who is in a tumultuous marriage and it hasn't really been the best. And she is just like, okay, this isn't really working. Something happens which leads her to have to figure out things on her own, stand on her own 2 feet with her kids. But she's like a stay-at-home mom. Like, she's been someone who's been a homemaker and a caregiver, which is a job in itself. But if you are doing that for years, then you're having to like immediately switch to something else. It can be such a hard transition, very lonely, isolating, and scary. So you see all of that within this, and also her having to figure out like who she is, how to do things on her own. And this is the first book I've ever read where someone is going on solo dates in the book. And they're like kind of teaching you like and walking you through it because she doesn't know how to doesn't know how to enjoy her own time by herself. So you're learning that in this story. I feel like this is such an incredible read. Please pick this up. And now let's get into the books that are on my TBR for all of the like non-spicy books. Now, these are books that I have not read, so I cannot say 110% that there is absolutely no spice in it because I haven't read them. But I have scoured reviews to see what other people have said about the books, and a lot of people have said that these books don't have spice. There are like 2 books that I can, or 3 books I can definitely say don't have spice because people I know have read them and they're authors I know that don't write books with spice in them. But the first book is The Summer of Dandelions. This is one I can't say 100% sure it doesn't have spice, but the reviews on Goodreads say that there is no spice in it. And it looks like a really good one. It also, I've heard that this book talks about waiting until you're married to have sex, and so that is something that I feel like you don't see very often. It says, after she's fired from her serving job and kicked out of her apartment by a temperamental roommate, Addison Ellsworth has run out of luck and cash. She can practically see her dream of winning the Miss Meadow title drifting away from her with the summer breeze. This is her last chance to win. No more excuses, no more distractions, not even her ex or the host of the pageant, who is convinced Addison is still not over him. When a live-in nanny position opens up in town, she sends off a quick prayer and a pink resume, hoping the new job will be her saving grace. Addison's answered prayer quickly transforms into an unexpected hurdle. Not only is her gorgeous new boss completely distracting, but single dad Perry Whitmore also happens to be the restaurateur who had her fired. Perry can't fire her from this job though because she's the only nanny his children get along with. Now he's forced to bring Addison and her contagious dimpled smile on family trips and pretend he's not attracted to her. With his dad retired and ready to move, he has 6 months left to get married so he can inherit his childhood home, the last place he has happy memories of his late mother. Addison might be the solution to all of Perry's problems, especially when she agrees to a fake relationship that could buy him more time and help Addison prove to her unbearable ex she's not only moved on but upgraded. Now the only thing that they have to do is ignore the annoying, sizzling chemistry between them if they're going to do what's necessary to finally accomplish their dreams. And this is the first book in the Meadow Hills series, but it says it can be read as a standalone. Another book is When in Rome. I will link all these books below if you guys want to pick any of these up. This is a book that I know doesn't have any spice because I've heard from people who've read it that enjoyed it that it does not have spice. This is about a pop star who she gets stranded, I think, in a random small town, and someone has to actually like help her fix her car or something. And while she's getting her car fixed, the guy, like, I think just intrigues her and she decides that she wants to stay in that small town for a little bit. It says Amelia can't resist falling for the cozy town and her grumpy tour guide, but even Audrey had to leave Rome eventually. And that's like the town of Rome. It's like this very small town. So you get a lot of small town experiences in this. It's like that cutesy, fluffy vibe that I feel like is so fun to read. Another book is Shoot for the Stars by Sienna Smoke. I don't know if this one doesn't have spice. I can't say 100% for sure, but this is one of those that I looked up on Goodreads and it looks like from the reviews that there is not any spice. It says not everyone wants to start over, and for Journey Young, that is the last thing she wants to do, but when her former track coach turns creepy, it leads her to the pristine campus of Glendale Prep with 2 goals in mind: win championships and forget the past. Roman Taylor has everything he could want: a full ride to Glendale Prep, a pretty girlfriend, and being best wide receiver in all of Gelco. But there's only 2 things he wants more than anything: his dad's support and a D1 scouts to look his way. With both of them on 2 different paths, Journey and Roman didn't expect to reconnect their long-lost friendship at Glendale Prep. Neither did they expect it to turn into anything more. Both with championships on the line, the last thing on Journey's mind is to fall in love, to throw her off her game, but Roman will do whatever it takes to win the game and her heart. The goal is to win the championships, but also each other's hearts. This one, again, looks really good. And this also looks like there's going to have deeper themes in it as well. Another book that I think is a great one is a book by Tony Shiloh. I wrote this one down because I don't have it yet, but I definitely want to get it soon. And I've read Tony Shiloh's books in the past, so I know that this one definitely does not have spice. And it's called... let's see, A Run at Love. And I don't know exactly what this one is about, but it looks like it's a really cutesy one, which I feel like are the books that I gravitate towards, especially in the winter. It's a girl who is, it says, a black woman in a field with little diversity. Piper McKinney is determined to make her mark on the horse racing world. Raised on a thoroughbred farm in Kentucky, Piper's dream is for her horse to win the prestigious Kentucky Derby with the help of her best friend and trainer, Tucker Hale. She gains national attention but must grapple with the complications that arise when a journalist delves into her past as a transracial adoptee. In an effort to win Piper's heart, Tucker formulates a plan to train Piper's horse to victory, hoping to prove himself to her, her parents, and his own self-doubts. Then a shocking scandal hits the media, implicating both Piper and her parents, and she and Tucker will have to survive the onslaught to find their way to the winner's circle and each other. So that one looks like a really good book. And again, I've read 2 books by Tony Shiloh. They're very good. They're also both Christian reads, so keep that in mind if that's something that you enjoy reading, which I do. And another great series that I want to start are these 2 books right here. Speaking of Christian books, this is Though I Stumble, and it's the first book, and this is If I Believe, which is the second book. And this in the, it says it's a Promises of God novel, and it's by Kim Cash Tate. It says 4 women, 1 weekend, and their lives will never be the same. It's about 4 different women, and I love stories where the books don't just like follow one person, but they follow like lots of different women who are going through different things. And again, they're both really good reads that I've heard from people who've read them. They look like they'll also be really fast because the words are absolutely huge. I've heard that they talk about grief, they talk about depression, they talk about just like marital issues and all the things, and I feel like these are the types of stories that I gravitate towards whenever I'm wanting a heavier read, because I am gonna get a heavy read, but I'm also going to get like inspiration and like faith and encouragement within that as well. It's not just gonna be like, here are all these heavy, hard things that people go through, and it's just like desolate and sad, especially in the winter. Like, I do not need that. And another great book that I really want to read that doesn't have any spice, it's called Some Kind of Forever by Lena James. This is by a black author as well. It says Kayla Harris doesn't have the time. A past heartbreak has pushed her to keep busy during college, and as she enters her final year, one last job-filled summer stands between her and the internship of her dreams. When a cute tourist crashes into her life, Kayla has to reconcile her fear of another broken heart and her determination to keep him at arm's length with her growing attraction. Chase Wilmington is ready to relax. Finished with college, he's excited to take it easy before jumping into the family business. Summer vacation is exactly what he needs, and he's ready to unwind. Until he meets Kayla. All he wants is a moment of her time, but she won't give him the time of day. Chase is captivated, and Kayla is trying to stay focused. When her world comes crashing down around her, Kayla has to rely on the very guy she's tried to keep at a distance. Can Chase reach the girl who seems immune to his charm, or will Kayla's fears keep her from letting someone new into her life? Summer vacation only lasts so long, lasts so long, and life, like love, can be complicated. So that looks like a great read. And then the second book in this series, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's the second book in the series. It's called Sunshine with You by the same author. Comes out February 2025. So if you want to like catch, you know, this book before the new one comes out, that would be a great time to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed all of these book recs. I love reading books with spice and books without spice. If you guys want books recs with spice, I actually just shared a video with a ton of books that have spice in it because I read all different types of books. And I feel like these are great books that have a wide range of depth. They have like, you know, sad reads, there are fluffy reads, like you're gonna get all the things, young adults. So if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.